Imagine standing in the same place where countless memories were made, only to feel the heavy silence of someone missing. That is Amy's life at the start of Heartland Season 19. After years of holding on, after years of pretending that she had finally moved past the heartbreak, the one person who had shaped her world was suddenly about to return. The question every fan has been waiting for: what happens when Amy finally comes face to face with Ty after all these years? The premiere episode wastes no time pulling us straight into that emotional storm, reminding us that love, even when buried under pain, never truly fades. When Season 19 begins, the world of Heartland feels both familiar and changed. The ranch is still the same wide-open fields, the comforting sound of horses, the mountains standing tall in the background. Yet for Amy, everything feels different because Ty hasn't been there. His absence is not just in the empty chair at the dinner table or the quiet barn at night, it's in the way Amy moves through life, determined but always carrying a shadow behind her smile. Over the years, she has tried to fill that silence with purpose, devoting herself to the ranch, her daughter Lyndy, and the people who never left her side. Jack, as always, stood as her rock. His wise words and steady presence kept her from collapsing under the weight of her grief. Lou, juggling her own life, reminded Amy that she wasn't alone, even in the hardest times. Georgie brought sparks of energy to the ranch, but even she noticed the unspoken heaviness whenever Ty's name was mentioned. For Amy, raising Lyndy became her greatest mission. She poured all her love into her daughter, determined that even if Lyndy never knew her father the way Amy had, she would grow up surrounded by strength and care. But no matter how strong Amy appeared on the outside, the cracks showed in quiet moments. Standing by the barn brushing Spartan, she often drifted into memories, Ty's laughter echoing, his hands guiding hers, the life they once dreamed of building together. Nights were the hardest. When the ranch was quiet and everyone was asleep, Amy found herself staring out the window, wondering if Ty ever thought about them, or if he had managed to move on completely. This silent ache defined Amy's life in the years without Ty. And yet, despite the hurt, she never let herself grow bitter. Instead, she used the pain as a reminder of what love once gave her: the courage to keep going, the ability to raise her daughter with warmth, and the strength to continue Heartland's legacy. But the truth was undeniable. No matter how much time passed, there was always an empty space in her heart that belonged to Ty, and this is where the episode begins to plant the seed of change. Subtle hints are dropped. Amy overhears small-town whispers, notices little signs, and feels a shift in the air around her. The world she thought she knew, the life she carefully built without him, was about to be shaken. Something was coming, something she didn't dare to believe in at first. After all the years of silence, Amy had learned not to hope too much. But deep inside, a spark of possibility stirred, one she tried to push away, yet couldn't quite silence. The premiere captures this tension beautifully, making viewers feel Amy's loneliness while also preparing us for the storm about to enter her life again. It's the calm before the emotional whirlwind, and the perfect setup for Ty's shocking return. The quiet rhythm of Heartland is interrupted in a way no one could have prepared for. It happens on a day that feels like any other. Amy is out in the yard with Lyndy, watching her daughter ride under Jack's careful eye, while the sun dips low over the hills. The air feels heavy, though, almost as if the world itself is holding its breath. Then, from the distance, a figure appears. At first, Amy doesn't notice, she's too focused on Lyndy's laughter. But when she finally looks up, her breath catches. The camera lingers on her eyes, widening, her hands freezing in place, because standing there against the glow of the fading sun is Ty. The reunion is not grand, not loud, but it's raw and breathtaking. Years of silence collapse into one suspended moment where time seems to stop. Amy blinks, half expecting it to be a dream, a trick her heart is playing on her. She whispers his name, her voice trembling, almost too afraid to break the illusion. Ty! It's barely audible, but it carries years of longing, anger, and hope all at once. Ty takes a hesitant step forward, his face older, wearier, carrying the marks of a man who has walked a long road filled with battles he never spoke about. His eyes are the same, though soft, familiar, filled with the love he once poured into her and their daughter. For a second, Amy doesn't move. There's shock, confusion, and even anger flickering across her face. How dare he just walk back into her life? How dare he leave her carrying all the weight alone, only to show up as if nothing had happened? But then Lyndy's voice breaks the tension. "Mom? Who's that?" The little girl doesn't recognize him the way Amy does, but the question slices through the air. Ty's expression crumbles when his gaze falls on Lyndy. This is the first time he sees her not as the baby he left behind, but as a growing child, full of curiosity and innocence. His eyes glisten and his voice cracks when he whispers, "That's my daughter." Amy's emotions burst into conflict. Her protective side rises immediately. How dare he claim a place in Lyndy's life when he's been gone all this time? But underneath that anger lies something else, the undeniable truth that this man, despite everything, is part of her, part of the family she once dreamed of. The scene is heavy, not with instant forgiveness, but with the weight of years lost. The first words they exchange cut deeper than any argument. Amy demands answers. Why now? Why after all this time? Ty doesn't have an easy explanation. His voice shakes as he admits he thought staying away was the only way to keep them safe, that circumstances beyond his control forced him into silence. He doesn't excuse himself, doesn't pretend that his absence wasn't devastating. Instead, he admits his greatest fear, that Amy and Lyndy had moved on, that there was no space left for him in their lives. It's in this vulnerability that the episode strikes its most emotional chord. For the first time in years, Amy sees Ty, not as the man who abandoned her, but as someone broken too, haunted by choices he thought were right but only caused more pain. She doesn't forgive him right away, but she also can't deny the pull in her heart. Love doesn't simply disappear, it lingers, even when buried under anger. The reunion is not tied up neatly with hugs and happy tears. Instead, it's layered with hesitation, guarded hope, and the realization that their story is far from over. Lyndy's presence adds even more depth. Her innocence and need for answers will push both Amy and Ty to confront what kind of family they can be after so many years apart. As the episode moves forward, this reunion becomes the emotional anchor of the season. Every look, every pause, every unspoken word between Amy and Ty carries the weight of their history. And as they stand in the same place where their love once grew, the audience is left asking, can they rebuild what was broken, or has too much time passed? The reunion between Amy and Ty is only the beginning. What comes next is a storm that sweeps through the entire Heartland family. Ty's sudden return doesn't just affect Amy, it shakes everyone connected to her. The ranch, usually a place of comfort and stability, suddenly feels unsettled, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. This is where the true weight of his absence and now his reappearance really begins to show. Jack is the first to step forward. His eyes, sharp and full of years of wisdom, lock on Ty the way a guardian does when someone trespasses sacred ground. Jack has always been protective of Amy, treating her not just as his granddaughter but as his own child. To him, Ty wasn't only a son-in-law, he was family, a man Jack once trusted, guided, and welcomed with open arms. But trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. Jack's voice is steady, almost too calm, as he asks the question everyone else is too afraid to speak. Why now, Ty? Why after all these years? There's no shouting, no dramatic explosion. Instead, it's Jack's disappointment that cuts deepest. Ty lowers his eyes, unable to meet the man's gaze. He knows Jack's silence holds more weight than anger ever could. For Jack, forgiveness won't come with words. It will only come through actions, through proof that Ty is here to stay this time, not just to stir up old wounds. Lou, on the other hand, is torn in two. Her protective instincts for Amy clash with the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, this could bring happiness back into her sister's life. She remembers the nights Amy cried, the mornings she forced herself to smile, the way she carried the burden of raising Lyndy alone. Seeing Ty stand there now makes Lou want to shield her sister all over again. Yet Lou also sees the flicker in Amy's eyes, the tiny spark that Ty reignited simply by being there. And that leaves Lou conflicted. Can she trust him not to break Amy's heart a second time? Georgie's reaction is more complicated. She grew up idolizing Ty as a role model, a steady hand who believed in her potential when no one else did. His disappearance had left her confused and angry, a betrayal she never truly understood. Now, faced with his return, her emotions swing between anger and longing. She wants to scream at him for vanishing when she needed him most, but she also wants to hug him and pretend none of it ever happened. Georgie represents the struggle of the younger generation caught between the pain of the past and the hope of a future that might still hold healing. And then there's Lyndy, the innocent heart of it all. She doesn't carry the same history as the others. For her, Ty isn't a man who left, but a mystery suddenly standing in front of her. Her questions are simple but devastating. Where were you, Daddy? Why didn't you come back sooner? These words pierce deeper than anything Amy or Jack could say. Ty is forced to confront the reality that his absence shaped not just Amy's life but his daughter's entire childhood. For him, Lyndy is both the most painful reminder of what he missed and the strongest reason to stay. The reactions ripple out beyond the family too. Word spreads quickly across Hudson. Neighbors whisper, friends exchange glances, and the community that once celebrated Amy and Ty as the perfect pair now holds its breath. Some welcome Ty back with cautious optimism, remembering the good he once did. Others question his motives, skeptical about whether he deserves a second chance. The town becomes a mirror of the family's divided feelings caught between hope for reconciliation and fear of history repeating itself. This tension becomes the heartbeat of episode 1. Every shared meal, every walk through the ranch yard, every conversation carries an undercurrent of unease. Amy finds herself pulled in two directions: the longing to embrace the man she once loved and the instinct to protect herself and Lyndy from more pain. Ty, for his part, shoulders the weight of everyone's mistrust, determined to prove through his actions that he has returned not as a ghost from the past, but as a man ready to rebuild. By the end of this section, it's clear the reunion is only the first step. Healing won't come easily, not for Amy, not for the family, and certainly not for Ty. The Heartland family has always faced challenges together, but this time, the challenge is within their own walls. And that makes it the most difficult of all. The days that follow Ty's return are heavy with silence. And yet, underneath the unease, something new begins to stir. Heartland has always been a place of healing, a place where broken spirits find their strength again. Now, that same land becomes the backdrop for Amy and Ty's most difficult journey, rebuilding not just their relationship, but themselves. Amy is cautious. She doesn't let her guard down easily. Not after years of raising Lyndy alone, not after nights of tears she never showed anyone. When she finally agrees to sit down with Ty, it isn't in the living room surrounded by the others, it's in the barn, their old sanctuary, the place where so many of their shared memories live. Spartan, her loyal companion through all of it, watches quietly as if he too remembers the bond that once tied Amy and Ty together. Their first real conversation is raw. Amy doesn't hide her anger or her hurt. She tells Ty about the nights she lay awake, wondering why he left without a word. She admits how Lyndy's questions cut her deeper each time she had no answers. Her voice shakes, not because she is weak, but because speaking the truth after so long takes courage. Ty listens. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't defend himself with excuses. Instead, he lets Amy's words land, each one heavy, each one deserved. When he finally speaks, his tone carries the weight of regret. He confesses that staying away was the hardest choice of his life, that every day without Amy and Lyndy was a wound that never healed. He thought leaving was protecting them, but all he did was abandon the people he loved most. His eyes glisten as he admits, "I was wrong. I should have fought harder. I should have trusted you to fight with me." It's not a perfect apology, it never could be, but it's honest. And that honesty is the first step toward healing, Amy doesn't forgive him instantly. She tells him forgiveness isn't something that can be spoken in a single moment, it has to be proven through actions, through consistency, through the kind of presence he denied them for so long. Ty nods, understanding that his return isn't the end of their pain, but the beginning of a harder journey. As the episode unfolds, small gestures begin to bridge the gap between them. Ty helps Lyndy brush her pony, his awkwardness giving way to a soft smile when she laughs. He joins Amy in the fields, lending a hand without being asked, not to win her back, but to remind her that he belongs here, working alongside her, sharing the burdens. One evening, Amy finds him fixing an old broken fence, the same one they used to lean on while talking about their future years ago. It's in these quiet moments that something shifts, the recognition that maybe, just maybe, there is still a future waiting for them. But it isn't just about rekindling romance. Healing also means confronting the hardest questions. Can Amy ever trust him not to leave again? Can Ty rebuild a bond with a daughter who barely knows him? Can the family, fractured by his absence, learn to embrace him once more? The answers don't come quickly, but the attempt itself becomes a powerful reminder of what Heartland has always stood for: second chances, resilience, and the belief that love can survive even the deepest wounds. One of the most emotional scenes comes when Amy allows Ty to ride Spartan again. At first, she resists. The horse has been her anchor through the years, the one piece of Ty she never lost. Handing the reins back to Ty feels like handing him a piece of her heart. But when she finally does, the moment is electric. As Ty rides across the fields, Amy watches with a mix of nostalgia and hope, realizing that maybe the past isn't gone, it's just waiting to be rebuilt in a new way. By the end of episode 1, Amy and Ty are not back together in the fairy tale sense. They are standing at the edge of something fragile, something unfinished, but undeniably alive. Their healing is slow, imperfect, and uncertain. Yet, for the first time in years, Amy allows herself to feel the possibility of love again, not as a memory, but as a choice they can still make. The episode makes it clear. Their reunion isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a long, complicated, and emotional journey. And for fans, it's a promise that the love we thought was lost forever still has a chance to shine again, just as the dust begins to settle, and just as it feels like Amy and Ty might be taking their first steps toward healing. The episode drops a twist that no one sees coming. Heartland has always been about love, family, and second chances, but it also knows how to end on a note that leaves viewers desperate for more, and episode 1 of season 19 does exactly that. The night after Ty spends time at the ranch, Amy finds herself awake, standing by the window of her room. She watches him outside, sitting alone by the corral, staring at the stars with a look of quiet sorrow. For a moment, she almost feels peace, like maybe they really can find their way back to each other. But then, Ty turns, and the expression on his face is different. It isn't just sadness, it's fear. The next day, the tension builds when Amy overhears a hushed conversation between Ty and Jack. Ty confides in him, his voice low but urgent. He admits that the reason he stayed away wasn't just about fear of disrupting Amy's life, it was because he was running from something dangerous. He tells Jack that during the years away, he got tangled in circumstances that put his life at risk, and by extension, Amy and Lyndy's lives too. It wasn't just about me, he says. If I had stayed, they would have been in danger. His words hang heavy in the air, and though Jack presses for details, Ty hesitates. It's clear there's more he hasn't revealed yet. Amy, of course, doesn't hear everything, but she catches enough to know that Ty is still hiding something. That trust she was beginning to rebuild is shaken once again. The anger and confusion rise to the surface as she confronts him later in the barn. If you're really here to stay, then stop keeping secrets. Tell me the truth, Ty. All of it. Her demand echoes through the rafters, her voice breaking not just with anger, but with exhaustion. She has fought too hard for too long to accept half-truths now. Ty doesn't answer right away. Instead, he looks at her, his eyes full of both love and guilt, and says only, "I want to, but you're not ready for it." His words leave Amy stunned, and the silence between them is louder than any argument could ever be. The episode closes with a powerful image. Amy walks away, torn between hope and heartbreak, while Ty lingers in the shadows of the barn. He pulls out something from his coat pocket, an old photograph of him, Amy, and baby Lyndy, worn at the edges, prove that he never stopped carrying them with him. But tucked behind the photo is something else, an envelope marked with a symbol Amy doesn't recognize, hinting at the hidden danger Ty has yet to reveal. The camera lingers on Ty's face, torn between the relief of being home and the dread of what may still come. And just before the screen fades to black, a single line of dialogue leaves viewers gasping. "They're going to find me, Amy. It's only a matter of time." The screen cuts, and with it, Episode 1 leaves fans on the edge of their seats. The reunion we've all been waiting for is no longer just about love, it's about survival, trust, and the secrets that could either tear Amy and Ty apart forever or finally bind them back together.